Welcome back into the mental game, where this week's guest is comedian Brent Pella.
It's not like my dad was never there, but I was with my mom, and my dad slowly but surely became less and less part of my life as I got older. And so having like something to share joy over was really a huge kind of part of our relationship.
And in this episode, Brent opens up about his career in comedy, which started in LA as a struggling comic, going to open mic after open mic, but now he is touring the country and starring in his own specials. But he also talks about his struggles in his childhood, growing up without his dad, and the bond he had with his single mother, and the mutual love they had for comedy, which inspired his career as a stand-up comedian. All of that and much, much more coming up in this episode. But first, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I am talking to you because, look, we have to be comfortable being vulnerable and talking about our mental health, and that's why I want you to go to mantherapy.org. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with Brent Pella. Welcome back into the mental game. As you can see, I got a very special guest sitting next to me, and I just called him the nicest guy I've ever met because you're a super polite comedian. Brent Pella, thanks so much for coming on the mental game.
Thanks for having me, you little bitch. Appreciate
that was
it,
great.
man.
As you have a smiley face tattoo, or you just wrote in pen. That was fantastic. Like, so we're in LA at my studio, and most people come up and it's like kind of just easing into it. Your handshake right away, smiles, laughs, and then called me a bitch right off the top.
Yeah,
so,
you got to keep your hosts humble.
Yeah, well,
you know?
Thank you so much. We were talking before. I mean, you've had a great run here in comedy, doing a lot of stand-up right now, touring around the country. You had a special come out 6 months ago. What's it called again?
Conscious Bro. It's out now on YouTube. You can watch it for free.
Awesome,
yep.
Cool. And then there's
because I'm just that nice of a guy. I made it
you
for,
just put
for
it
free.
all out for free.
Yeah.
Don't watch some of his recent stuff with the political stuff going on if you want to think you're a nice guy.
Right, yeah.
It's very, very funny. But thank you so much for coming on, man.
Appreciate
I'm really
you,
excited
man. Yeah,
to
thanks for having me.
dig into your story in comedy, but also, your mental health journey and everything in between. But the first thing I start with everyone is, what does mental health mean to you? And it's something that's unique because we go through it on our own. These journeys are very unique to each individual person. But I ask you the same thing. What does it mean to you?
Sure. Mental health to me is about balance. I live my life with 4 main tenets of balance, and that's mental health, emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health. And I try to stay in balance as much as I can within all 4 kind of pillars.
Yeah.
Because if one is off balance, then things start to tilt, and I try to make up for it with other areas. And then it's like those workout discs that have like a ball on the bottom of them, and you balance to like strengthen your ankles. That's how I picture these 4 kind of tenets. I'm trying to always just be in balance. And mental health is maybe the most important because it informs every other area of my life. Because if I'm not mentally healthy, then I'm not motivated to go be physically healthy. And if I'm not physically healthy, then I'm going to feel bad about myself. Now I'm not emotionally healthy. And if I'm not emotionally healthy, then I can't connect with my own sense of self and my own spirituality. And so now everything is lacking. So I just try to stay in balance between all those things.
Balancing is a common answer, but having the 4 pillars, I think, is super important because you mentioned something really, really key that I always say. Like, if you don't have your mental health, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to start with that, because I use the example because I have a bunch of NFL players on. Like, if they got hurt on the field, the doctor's taking them to surgery the next day or that night. If something's going on up here, we should do the same thing. Like, you wouldn't walk around with a broken leg dragging. I mean, maybe you would. I don't know. But I know I wouldn't. But yeah, I love that perspective. And especially the career that you're in, you have to have all 4 of those things because you're all over the country every week. You're employed, doing your own, bits online, doing your own tour, like your own specials. It has to take a toll on you at some point. And so you have to have that balancing act and really walk that tightrope. Where did the comedy start for you? Because we were talking before we started rolling. I didn't know this. You went to school for sports journalism, just like I did.
Yeah.
So, like, you have the same background, which I love. So where did the comedy fit in? Were you just talking shit to people online about
more
sports?
like getting shit talked to.
Okay, cool,
yeah, for sure. Comedy came in pretty early. I was raised by a single mom, and she brought me up on all the old SNL clips from the 90s.
Yeah.
And, Chris Farley and Will Ferrell back in the early days. And it was just me and her. And so she was my first audience. And then my family became my audience. And, at age 5, I was crawling under dinner tables, tying my uncle and my great-grandpa's shoes together. And
it's not where I thought you were going with that.
But it was always like, I was always trying to like entertain just kind of naturally. It started there. And in college, I made some funny videos in addition to doing some sports journalism stuff, which was always kind of the trajectory that I had in mind. I was like, I'll be on Sports Center one day. This would be rad. And I was doing on-camera interviews with a lot of student athletes in college. And then post-college, I moved down to LA, had a huge love for the process of filmmaking from everything I had done in college. Sure. And also had a huge love throughout my whole life for comedy because of what my mom raised me with. So I put both of those things together when I got to LA, and I just dove right into the open mic scene and the improv and sketch comedy scene. Yeah. And I didn't know anybody out here. I had like my roommate and maybe one other friend, but I didn't have any friends in comedy. And it was like, it's tough, dude. Starting off in comedy is tough already. But when you start in LA, it's like learning how to swim in the Bermuda Triangle. It's
good
nuts.
luck.
Yeah, good luck. And so, that was my early days in comedy out here were really like self-reliant. Like I didn't have anybody else to rely on. I didn't have a crew. I didn't have homies in the scene.
Yeah.
I was very much trying to figure it all out.
Well, that's the most vulnerable thing I think you can do in entertainment as a job. I mean, to go up on a mic in front of a crowd, especially when you're starting out, you have no fucking idea how it's going to go.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing, and you hope that someone laughs at something, you don't get booed off stage, or they don't kick you out and don't let you back in.
Yeah.
It had to be the most frightening thing ever when you started.
It was, when you start doing stand-up comedy, you're going to open mics, and these are places where anybody can go up and say words into a microphone for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Anyone. A meth head across the street, or your plumber that just came and blew up your bathroom the other day.
Both in LA.
Both are in LA. Both have been at open mics that I've been to. And so in an environment like that, you have a bunch of comedians who typically don't really care about the person that's performing on stage because they're focused on their notebook and like what they're going to say when it's their turn.
Right.
Some will watch and be nice and friendly, sure. But for the most part, it's typical in the open mic scene for whoever is performing to not have a realistic reaction from the audience. Instead, you're getting judged, you're facing silence. Also, people starting off in the open mic scene for their first couple of years of performing are objectively bad.
Yeah.
Because we're all trying to figure it out. We're like struggling, flailing artists.
It's every career.
Throwing shit up at the mic. Yeah. So in that environment, you kind of got to build like this mental toughness, dude. And like New York has the grit. LA kind of had the grit. It still does. But it's the open mic scene, like it requires this mental kind of fortitude and also a bit of naivete, I think.
Yeah.
To allow you to continue evolving your craft without getting hung up on the fact that you're not receiving praise from the environment that you're seeking, and don't let that get you down.
Yeah.
It's kind of always my mentality. And so I learned pretty early on. I kind of coached myself into the frame of mind that I'm not performing for these people. I'm performing for myself, because these people in the open mic scene, that's not my audience. My audience is going to be regular people buying tickets.
Yep.
Not comedians waiting for their turn to go up. So every time I would do an open mic, I started like kind of training myself to not feel too down about the silence or the messed up jokes or whatever, because this isn't the show. This is practice.
It makes me feel like, and you said practice and training camp starting in the NFL.
We talking about practice?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I want AI one day. Man, I got to get him on and ask about that.
Yeah.
But like, it's like training camp for players. Like, they're going against each other. Half of them aren't paying attention to what the other one's doing. And it's like, then you get to Sunday, you got 60, 70,000 people watching you. It's a game changer. But we talked about it being, vulnerable, and you're taking a chance. It makes you nervous. You have to have that mental toughness. Going back now, you mentioned, your mom, she was a single mother. You didn't have your dad in your life. You talked about the comedy that you guys kind of found together. Was that something that brought you together, not just to laugh, but also to heal as a coping mechanism between you two?
Sure. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Haven't really thought of it like that before, Mr. Therapist. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, whenever you can bond over something together, it does help you connect with that person in ways that maybe connections are lacking because of the void that somebody else has left, or the void that an experience has left.
Yeah.
So it's not like my dad was never there, but I was with my mom, and my dad slowly but surely became less and less part of my life as I got older. And so having like something to share joy over was really a huge kind of part of our relationship. And that is for sure a huge part of my mission and purpose now, is to create opportunities for people to share and joy together over the things that I make and put into the world, in the hopes that maybe there's another, mom and son, or pair of friends or whatever, that are going to bond over some silly little thing I made, or one day movies and TV, and find their own like connection that was rooted in joy.
That is like the perfect, most emotional answer, connecting you and your mom.
Cool.
I do feel like I'm like a proud therapist now, even though
you nailed it.
Even though I'm not.
That's $111 per hour.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, that's kind of low. But having that with your mom subconsciously, now you can look back, and that was starting to spark and inspiring you. She had you when she was what, 22?
Yeah.
How did that affect you, watching her raise you while she's still growing up herself?
She's like my best friend, dude. We were like homies. She brought me to Grateful Dead shows. She brought me to music festivals. I was the little hippie toddler running around, so it was cool. I had a rad childhood. It was super fun. I was, wanting for nothing. It was great. So I have no complaints about my childhood. It was really cool. She probably has some complaints about her 20s.
Yeah.
And not being able to go to the club or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a great time, man.
Do you think... Yeah, I mean, the comedy started, you said, like 5, 6 years old. You guys would watch stuff together. And then growing up, did you realize how that friendship with your mom was unique, not having, your father around as much as he was early in your life? Did you find that bond to be more special the older you got?
Yeah, 100%. And I still do. And I probably always will uncover new importances and new aspects of our relationship that are driving me forward in a cool way. I love my mom. She's my best friend, dude. She taught me about life even when she doesn't even know it. And she's helped me, stay on the ledge, I guess you could say. Yeah, she's been great, man. And yeah, she's helped me understand balance and what it means to be balanced,
Well, I am going to ruin this sincere moment by telling you something I don't think I've ever said on this show. So my mom and I have a special relationship as well, but she was she was the overshadowing, like my parents split when I was 12. So she was like kind of paranoid, making sure I'm okay, this and that. For some reason, I don't know why, in college, instead of calling her mom, and people are going to kill me for this, I called her bitch. And that became like a term of endearment. And so to this day, if I don't call her bitch, she thinks something's wrong. It's so fucked up. And my grandma was still alive, who just passed 2 years ago. She was old bitch. And
hilarious.
And so she lived at my mom's house. And so I remember calling one time and I said, "Hey bitch, hey old bitch." And my grandma, who's 70 something years old, goes, "Hey, how's your dick?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, sorry. Hey, dick." I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you? So moms are special.
They are. Like sometimes my mom will call me and I'll be like, "What's up, ho?" We have a good time.
Yeah, you got to keep it fresh. Kids that are listening, respect your parents. Yeah. We're pieces of shit. But let's go full circle now. As you get out here to LA after college, you take on this full time. To your mom, do a second. Did she support you going for this?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That had to be hard, knowing that how difficult this career can be as a mother.
I was really lucky, she was fully on board from day one. I think her response one of the first times was like, all right, let me know when I can come see a show. That's awesome. So those early years were really tough. It's still tough, dude. I mean, it's always going to be tough. I chose the hardest thing aside from the really hard things like being a cop or a firefighter, but it's hard. It's hard trying to build a career based on making stuff that you hope other people will like enough to allow you to pay rent. And so I'm continuing to understand just the depths of how really challenging that is. Because for a very long time in this space, you're not just going from paycheck to paycheck. You're going from like favor to favor and hope to hope and long shot to long shot. And so, my mom was super supportive starting out, which was cool. And those early years were nuts because it was balancing like a day job at the Cheesecake Factory and a day job as an assistant on commercial shoots and music videos, and then improv class on Thursdays, and then open mics all night. And it was a really cool chapter. And then that eventually turned into, now I'm on the road a little bit more. Now I'm making rent on my own, so I don't have to ask my mom for gas money, which was cool to not have to do that in your late 20s.
For gas money.
Yeah, 100%. If you're in California, you should always ask your parents for gas money.
I moved here 2 months ago, and I mean, it's insane how
much.
It's nuts.
Yeah. It's nuts. Well, you weren't here when it was 7. It hit 7.
Fun.
About a year or two ago.
Okay, I was coming back and forth then from Cincinnati, but this is different than Ohio prices for sure.
for sure.
Well, that grind early on, the mental toughness, and you start realizing what you talked about before of having that awareness that you're performing for yourself and kind of building that resume, repertoire, whatever you want to call it. When did it start, maybe not paying rent, but when did you see all of that start paying off?
Still waiting. Follow me on Instagram at Brent Pella. It in a way it always paid off because I love doing what I do so much. Yeah. And
corny ass answer.
I know, but here's the thing. I know, in the lowest moments, and I've had this conversation with my mom and my sister and my best friends, in the lowest moments where I felt like quitting and stopping, it's always been like, what else would you do? And if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And my answers were always, I wouldn't do anything. I don't want to do anything else. Yeah. And then if I had all the money in the world, I'd be doing what I'm doing now. Like I'd still be doing this, Yeah. So what was your question? Now I'm going off on a tangent.
I don't remember, but it's a hard work tangent, and I like it because I can say the same thing. It's
when did it start paying off? There have been moments where it's paid off in cool ways, and then there have been stretches where it's like, yo, when is this shit gonna pay off?
Right. What the fuck's happening right
Even
now?
right now, I'm in a space where I'm like, dude, I'm ready to have something big happen.
Pop, yeah.
And I've seen a lot of friends pop, and I love when my friends pop. Yeah. And I'm so stoked because that means I'm like, am I next?
Right.
What is my turn next? And that's a really hard thing to handle when you're in the creative space and you're a solo creator or an artist or an entrepreneur, and you see like legitimate best friends that you started doing stuff with explode and skyrocket and reach escape velocity. And you're still feeling like you're in the trenches.
You're explaining like how I feel where I'm at too, because I can understand it not in comedy, but like I have friends that are literally on SportsCenter. I have friends that are playing in the NFL. Obviously, I was never going to do that, but it's like you see people that you.
And I think this is in every industry. I don't think that this is just in the arts or in comedy or in entertainment.
But it's unique in entertainment. In the arts.
It's a little unique because it can happen so fast. Fast. Somebody could work. There are no such thing as one night success for sure, but there is such a thing as 10 years and then in one day skyrocket. Right. 10 years of like level playing field and then in one night launchpad status. And that's really cool to see. Yeah. But it's tough to watch it happen over and over and over again and continue to wonder like, oh, but where's my turn? And so that's like, to me, that's a toxic mindset that I've been actively trying to overcome. Because it's almost like a form of catastrophizing. And that's something I've given a lot of thought to over the years too, is if you lock yourself into a negative mindset, it's almost like comfortable. Because, for example, if you're watching everybody pop off, or you're watching good things happen for other people and you're not getting the opportunities, you're not getting the yeses, people are shooting you down left and right, you get no as soon as you walk out your door. It's hard to push through that with a positive attitude. It's easier to assume the position of woe is me and start catastrophizing, like, this shit is never going to work, I'm going to be in the trenches forever, whatever, it doesn't matter, fuck it. And that allows you to actually be comfortable because you relieve yourself of the burden of, like, trying
to get out of it.
Yeah, you relieve yourself of the burden of what's the word? Of like attempting to grow, you know, trying. You suddenly you're the victim. It's like painting yourself as a victim,
right?
You know,
it's a victim mentality. It's the stories that you tell yourself, the lies that you tell yourself.
Yeah, and Tony Robbins says, tell yourself a different story.
Yeah,
and I love that man, and that's the biggest thing I ever took away from him. So that's like where I've been in recent years. Is like in the spot where I feel like I'm ready to rock, dude. I could do something big if it comes my way, and I'm trying, and I'm planting seeds left and right, and I'm really fucking trying. And yet I've still seen, like, oh, there goes that friend. Fuck yeah, good job. Oh, there goes that friend. Okay, hell yeah, good job. Oh, there goes another friend. Okay, yeah, good job. And I look around and I'm like, I'm still here? Damn. But then two things happen that I'm trying to change actively. One is stop catastrophizing and being comfortable in that negative space. And two is compare yourself to who you used to be, not to who you might be or to who others are. And so that's been a big part of my, like, mental work on myself that I'm doing. Yeah, mental work. Yeah.
Your mental game.
That's the thought I just described up there.
Okay,
blocking
thanks.
for the X and then going... That my
For
positivity,
people that are just listening, he's pointing to the logo.
Yeah, the logo is my first thought is blocking the X, but my positivity is swinging a hook route around the left side.
We get so close to staying sincere, and then we just turn into fuckery.
But yeah, dude, I compare myself to where I was, and that is like my baseline. Because even 6 months ago or a year ago, I would look at where I'm at now and be like, okay, cool, hell yeah.
Making progress.
Yeah.
Different. Yeah. Well, I understand it. It's, again, not the same industry, but it's the same for anyone chasing a dream, going through a career change, changing life. Like when I was drinking and was an alcoholic for 8-10 years, it's like, why am I single? Why aren't I getting this promotion? Why am I not getting, this new job at this network or with this team? And it's that victim mentality. But as soon as you take control and, like, that person in the mirror, they're the only one that can make the change, and it's you. But it is frustrating when you see people achieve things around you. I mean, like, I'll say today, like, I have so much, so many good interviews and contents and guests, and I'm like, when is this shit gonna pop? And you have some that do. Like, I had Kevin Gates on, big rapper, and then his stuff pops. It's like, great. Why didn't it carry everything else? Before you came in today, I posted an old episode with Robin Williams' son Zach that was incredible.
Cool.
I wake up 2 million views on TikTok. I'm like, sick.
Yeah.
When am I gonna it's a hard thing to watch. And for you were on Wild and Out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to use this example, and I'm not, like, throwing shit at him, but Matt Rife.
Yeah.
Like, he's worked his ass off. He's from Ohio like me, so I've been familiar with him for a long time. And then he had the TikTok thing happen. And it's like, you're not mad that he had the success. You know how much work he's put in. You put in the same work, but it's like...
I, too, have a six-pack.
Yeah, when the fuck am I going to...
Right. When is my six-pack going to be recognized?
Right, exactly. That's like, I heard Theo Von say, I think it was with Burt Kreischer, like, he's prettier than most women he's ever dated. Like, it's he is a good-looking man.
Yeah, that's the thing, man, is and that's the trap of comparison, right? Is when you're looking at other people's backyards.
Six packs,
right. There's somebody said this quote, so it's not me, but it's very poetic. If you're looking in other people's backyards too much, then you'll never be able to tend your own flowers. Right. And that's, just another little tool that I have in my mind. Whenever I start to get caught in the trap of comparison, I try to pull it on back and focus on watering my garden,
What are healthy coping mechanisms for you? Because you have this, like, winning mentality, but you have to put it into action when, I don't know, you might pop into the store tonight and have a shitty set. And you had shoots earlier today. You're doing this midday, and, like, 12 hours and then go, oh fuck, this is a horrible day.
Yeah.
How do you balance that and do it healthily?
Healthily
Yeah,
is
that's a
good.
good word. Yeah.
I think a main thought that I've had in mind whenever something negative happens, and this might be a little out there, but I think we've all had this thought. We're gonna die.
Yeah.
Everybody gonna die. You gonna die. I'm gonna die. You gonna die. Everybody's gonna die. Every single thing in this room is gonna be trash one day. Every single thing in this room is going to be burnt to a crisp or smashed and pulverized into nothing. From the light to the Bengals helmet, sorry Cincinnati, to the microwave, to the fridge, everything will be trash.
People don't know at home that my studio is halfway in my kitchen too, so that's
right.
great.
Why does the studio have a fridge?
Yeah.
Everything around us will be trash. We will be gone. No one will remember us. And in, however many millions of years, the earth will be swallowed by the sun, and there will be no sign of human life left in the universe. Now, when you really put that into perspective, a little like a mini loss, like a bad set or a failed audition, is not that big of a deal. A step further than that is nihilism, where nothing matters at all, right? And that's not where I'm at. But using that as a tool just kind of gives me more focus on the importance yet lack of importance of the moment. So if I experience a loss, I'm not ruminating on it.
Yeah.
Because it's just another piece of fucking entropy in the universe that's going to move on and that no one's going to remember in 10 hours, 10 days, 10 years. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
So that's like the main tool.
I used to like sit on stuff so long.
Yeah.
Like it would, I was suicidal off and on since I was 14. I told you before we started rolling, people listen know, like top of my sports reporting career, Lois personally had to check into a hospital because I was suicidal. I never saw hope, but I don't even recognize that fucking person now. It's crazy because like I might have a bad 10 minutes or a bad hour now, but I never have a bad day.
Yeah.
It's a different mentality. You have to go through shit, I think, to be able to understand it. And then hopefully, maybe you can start telling it. That's why I created the show, so that people can hear our stories and then they don't have to go to those maybe rock bottom moments that we experience.
Yeah.
You mentioned like seeing, again, people have the success around you and going after that, but you also talk about that pride you have in your work.
Mm-hmm.
You have accomplished a lot. You're still doing it full time, paying the bills, not asking mom for gas money. What are your most proud moments you think you've had either on stage or through, screen, anything?
Yeah. Proud moments, man. Man, when my friends saw me on Wild and Out for the first time, like, Davis is a small little farm town up in Northern California.
Yeah.
It's not like a producer of big, huge, awesome talent regularly.
Sure.
So that was a big deal. I got like a front page report in the newspaper. That was a really cool culmination of just like a kid that grew up on Concord Avenue in Davis and now is on MTV. And
Sick
so
as
that's
fuck.
pretty cool. Yeah. A lot of moments like that kind of compile and they compound and they're easy to forget.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy in the fog of career ambitions. It's easy to highlight failures, losses, or missteps rather than keep at the forefront of your mind your successes and your wins. So, I've even done things where I've written in a notebook, I've listed all of like the negatives that have happened in my career and then all the positives. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, damn, dude, I would take this any day. Yeah. 100%. I'm not where I thought I would be at this age and at this time, but fuck, I love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool. If I looked at 10-year-old me and 10-year-old me got to see where I'm at and what I've done, he'd be like, dude, you could die now. And I'm good.
You're good. But let's stay.
Let's stay.
Let's stay and
we'll
keep
stick
working,
around for sure. Yeah.
It's powerful when you do that, and as your resident therapist for this half hour.
Thanks.
That's journalism, or journalism one, but journaling.
Yeah.
You're writing it down. Another healthy coping mechanism. What are I mentioned what are like your most proud moments? What would you say your flavor of comedy is. What do people see when you come up on stage besides calling them a bitch as soon as you meet them?
Well, I've been asked more than I would have thought what type of drugs I'm on.
Oh, okay.
And I
What are they, by
perform
the way?
sober at all times. I do.
Me too.
I'm not like sober, but I do perform sober. But people
Do you
always think I'm
perform
on
everything
cocaine.
sober?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't. And that started. Everybody drinks in comedy. A lot of people
Yeah.
drink, and you're performing at a bar.
My
work
joke was
is at a bar.
outside of on the stage, but sorry.
Oh,
go
right.
ahead. Yeah, sorry.
I guess my flavors, like I'm inspired by all the dudes I came up watching, all these high energy wackos, Jim Carrey and Will Ferrell and Chris Farley, when I was young. So, I've had people give me cocaine after shows because they think I'm on it and they think I need more.
Yeah.
I've had people give me weed and mushrooms and drugs.
Fuck
it's always
yeah.
fun because then it's nice to give it to other people
Yeah.
as gifts.
Passing it forward.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's fun to try and be just a vehicle for joy on stage. That's the mission.
And it all goes back to what you talked about with your mom, which I think is really powerful. Like finding that you can give that to somebody else. Like, and even when you're having maybe if you're having a shitty day, if you see people, on a date laughing at your set, or, a family cracking up at a skit that you put on YouTube, I mean, it does give you that perspective of the positive and negative in your notebook. I have that happen to me where like I got a bunch of shit going on, but you see a certain DM and it's like, oh, this person went to therapy or got sober because of an episode. It's like, that's incredible.
Totally.
What are goals that you have out there that you still want to hit on? I mean, I think before you had mentioned obviously getting into movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
But you're still, you're filming a ton of stuff independently, right?
Shooting a lot of my own. The video content that I put out online is
fucking hilarious.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's really a foundation for the bigger TV and film projects that I want to produce in the long term. Because doing videos is fun, but you have more of a cultural impact for a longer amount of time with the bigger project like in TV and film. I would also love to get into a business type role. I have my own production company, so I'm trying to expand that in years to come.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot. And that, all the goals that I have, they require balance with all those 4 pillars that I mentioned up top. Yeah.
Because
if I'm imbalanced, then then my whole output is off balance too. And that's a poor reflection of, what I want to be doing. So the external reflects the internal, and to accomplish everything that I want to be doing, I really do my best to stay balanced amidst the highs and lows.
Finding what works for you is such an important thing with mental health. You've heard Brent and I talk about it throughout this episode, how therapy, talking to our family and friends, the bonds we have with our mom have all helped us with our mental health when we are struggling. And for all the guys out there listening, or maybe the girlfriends, the wives, the sisters, the friends, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. Go to mantherapy.org today to take their 18-point head inspection, which is a quick, just 2-minute test that asks you basic questions about your everyday life to help you the best with your mental health and find the best mental health tools, resources, and tips to help you on your mental health journey. Again, that is Man Therapy. Go to mantherapy.org today. Suicide can be tough to talk about, but that's why the Happiness Project is helping break the stigma. After losing their classmate Nick, his friends knew they had to do something to help save lives. So, the Happiness Project was born, a clothing brand to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, with t-shirts and hoodies to start a conversation and let people just like you know you are not alone. To find more about the Happiness Project, follow them on social media and use the code MENTALGAME at happinessproject.com for 15% off your first order. Well, the balancing, we all have our ways to do that. We mentioned joking about people handing you cocaine and weed with kids, don't do drugs. But we mentioned before we were rolling about psychedelics and how they help you and how I think that started maybe working with veterans or learning how they used it to kind of with their PTSD.
Well, so I first started working with psychedelics about 8 years ago. So I'm very, very new into my journey and relationship with a couple of different substances. I've microdosed psilocybin quite often. I've worked with LSD quite a bit, both in a microdose and a bigger dose journey style thing. And I've sat with ayahuasca a number of times. I certainly don't recommend any of that to just anybody.
Yeah.
I do recommend everybody look into it. I think every single person in the world should know the value that some of these things have brought to people through studies at Stanford, studies at Johns Hopkins, where cancer patients are given psilocybin assisted therapy and come out like a completely changed person. And I got into that world through a good buddy of mine. He's a DJ. He goes by Equanimous.
Okay.
He's fantastic. And he brought me into that scene. And I just started learning, and I've gotten a tremendous amount of benefit from working with these different substances and different like kind of plant medicines. And a lot of that stuff gets hate, and it gets shrugs, and it gets snickers. And because there's still a really unfair stigma about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really a bummer. But for the people who are genuinely curious about it, it's a world that is literally saving lives. An example of that is this organization called VETS that I work with, who I met. I started rocking with them a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
VETS stands for Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. They're founded by a couple folks named Amber and Marcus Capone out of San Diego. Marcus is a former breacher. So he's the guy at the front of the line busting into a building that might fucking explode in his face.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Huh?
So he had a couple of traumatic brain injuries and had a pretty dark period of time with his wife and his kids, and suicidal, depressed. They had friends that had killed themselves who were former service members. Sure. So they started this organization that raises money to send veterans with PTSD overseas for psychedelic assisted therapy using ibogaine, 5-MeO-DMT, and ayahuasca. Ibogaine is a root from Africa. Okay. And Andrew Huberman and another doctor whose name I forget, they had a study out of Stanford that followed veterans with PTSD for, I think, up to a year after they had ibogaine sessions. And it's intense as hell. I've never done ibogaine. That's not particularly one that I think is best for me. But for these veterans who have seen some insane stuff, who have not found help anywhere else from the VA or from insurance providers or from doctors, for a lot of people, this is a last resort, man. And this study followed them for months after their treatment, and it showed tangible, like empirical data, brain scans, reactions to things, physical reactions, movement, coordination, and so much else. I highly recommend people go look it up. So I've worked with that group raising money, and I've spoken at their events and hosted a couple events with them, and they're awesome. There's another organization called MAPS, MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. They're at the forefront of pushing MDMA through the FDA to get legalized for therapy. So there are all of these initiatives to reduce the global level of trauma.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful fucking movement. And the way it's trickled down to me is that I do partake in substances. It's rarely. It's not like a monthly or weekly thing. Yeah. It's maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
And it's in an environment that I trust, with people that I trust, and we all bring intention into the space. Yeah. Before the experience. It's not like we're just popping Molly and running around, which is still fun from time to time.
Did some of that in college.
Yeah. But when you bring in a really mindful, intention-based approach, the results that you get in the integration process after, integration being, you reflect on the experience you had, you have conversations with people, you journal, you meditate on it. It's changed my life in a massive, massive way. I've found new tools to work with the dark thoughts that pop up in my mind, the dark chatter that sometimes feels so overwhelming that I just had to like take a nap, Yep. And like pretend that I was dead for 2 hours to try and just get rid of this dark mental chatter. And so I've found new ways of navigating those low moments and dark spaces from some of these psychedelic enhanced experiences that I've had. It's not for everybody. I have to say that again. I'm not saying go do it. I'm saying look it up, look into it, because it very well could, and I hope will, change the way we approach mental health.
You're saying something, not directly, but I'll say it directly. Everyone, it works differently for everyone, no matter what it is. Like therapy and medication might work for me. Therapy and psychedelics might work best for you. Somebody listening to me like, look, they might be sober like me and like, hey, we know we can't take that. Well, there's other options. There's spiritual therapy. There's different things that holistic therapy.
It's just a tool. It's a tool, like breath work is a tool, like meditation is a tool, like therapy is a tool.
Yeah. When I would, abuse a substance, that's not what we're saying with this. It's helpful in those ways. We got about 5 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time because you got to drive through some traffic here in LA. Let's get into some fun stuff. What do you make of obviously everything happening the last 2 weeks when we're filming this? This is about 2 weeks after the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. We have Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Sorry to bring up controversial stuff, I guess you could say, to talk about, but everything seems fair game in comedy.
Everything's fair game. Everything's controversial. I don't think anything is too soon, and I personally don't think anything is off limits.
Okay, so that's
nothing.
That's what I was going to ask you.
As long as the intention is to bring laughter into a space and not shock or offense. That some people do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think anything is off limits. The darkest subject matter can be joked about as long as you do it right.
Right. Well, have you ever had someone that you've done an impression of or dogged on a bit or in a tweet or something like come at you?
Not the specific person, but
their team?
No, but just people.
Oh yeah.
People online.
Well, fuck people online.
Right. People online think they can stick up for their celebrities that they love. I think we're in a place now, man, where people have this grip. They have they feel like they have ownership over what should and should not be said. And I think that's a product of social media. Mm-hmm. I think that's a product of elevated platforms. 10 years ago, some dickhead on the side of the road wouldn't have an elevated platform, but today that guy could go viral overnight, and all of a sudden now he's talking to millions of people and he's going to have influence. And
Haktua.
I am that dickhead, by the way. Yeah, Haktua chick, right.
Not saying she's a bad person. It's just a drunk interview on the streets of Broadway.
Right, now she's a star.
Now she's got.
So I with all of the crazy shit that's happening with especially with politics, dude, mental health was already in a decline.
Yeah.
We need more tools. We need more conversations like this and more listeners like this and more people that are willing to engage in these topics so that we don't let something as trivial as a difference of political opinion drive us into hysterics or rage.
Yep.
That's not how it should be. I'm watching the Republican National Convention when it was on, and I know it's going to be the same when I watch the Democratic National Convention. People holding up signs that are like, Biden sucks, get him out of office. And then at the DNC, it'll be like, lock him up, Trump is terrible. All this vitriol,
something,
this rabid hate, instead of support, go Trump or Trump 2024. And there's still that, but there's so much just hate directed at people. And that's not a healthy place to be. And it seems to be getting less and less healthy. So my hope is, and part of my mission and what I feel like is very aligned with my purpose, is to have these types of conversations and to offer more insight toward tools that have worked for me.
Right.
And so that's what's beautiful about what you do, is you're getting the same thing. You're putting the same thing out with tools that have worked for you and other people.
Well, thank you for saying that. And for anyone that gets offended by stuff, it's just a fucking joke.
Eat a dick.
Okay. All right.
Bleep that out. I love you. I'm joking. Okay.
We'll leave it. Last thing I'll ask you, unless you got something else, you're getting ready. Can I say this? Where you're moving? Okay. So you're moving to Austin.
Oh, I did already.
You said that already?
Yeah.
Oh, you already moved?
Yeah,
okay.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay, so that's so awesome because obviously the mothership's there, Joe Rogan, Hinchcliffe, Kill Tony, just such a cool spot to be in. That has to be just a boost of energy for you being in a new spot.
It's, you talk about changing your mental health, man. I look out windows out there and all I see is trees and rolling hills. I don't have a 5G tower next to my bedroom anymore. I don't have helicopters and planes going over my apartment.
What the fuck is the deal with the helicopter?
They
Every night over my house.
float
for
hours at a time.
I don't
don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't got crazy people yelling in the alley, sirens everywhere. It's just like I can feel my nervous system resetting, like a clock getting rewound. And yeah, that was a big part of that shift is to have a creative shift like that. Yeah.
Well, it's powerful, and you got to find where you can make that next move. Speaking of moves, last thing I'll ask you, advice to somebody that maybe comes to a show of yours and like wants to take that first step and go to an open mic. What would you tell a young, is it aspiring comedian?
Yeah. Dude, same thing I would tell anybody that wants to do anything hard. You're gonna suck first. Yeah. That's what I've realized is like nobody's good out the gate, and you got to kind of have that naivete. You got to kind of have that sense of self-worth that's a little too much.
Yeah.
And just eat the shit, and enjoy that, because that's where growth happens. And you're not really seeing it in the moment because you're so focused on trying to get better. But starting off in this business in particular, you're gonna be bad for like a while. And then you're gonna be a little bit less bad for an even longer time.
Yep.
I'm like a little bit less bad than I was when I was a little less bad. And hopefully I won't be bad soon.
Right.
But
positive self-talk.
Yeah. Man, you use the tools at your disposal. Find a community. Community is so undervalued in this culture and in this society. We don't talk about it enough. People don't have enough friends. People don't have enough people to rely on. People don't have enough people to trust and collaborate with. And I think community is so strong and so important to supporting your growth, both as a human and in the career. So I guess my advice would be to find a community of people you love. Like, do you have 5 to 10 people that you would be down to hang out with at any given moment?
Right.
That you would be down to talk to about anything? Do you have 5 to 10? Make that your community. And find solace in that community when things are low.
I love it. I don't know if your profession in the last 10 to 15 years would allow you to do this, but preacher might be something you can look forward to in the future.
Find me at the next music festival. Yeah, I'll be preaching.
Hell yeah. This is usually reserved for my mom, but thanks, bitch, for coming on since you got me. Brent, thanks so much.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, this was great. Good luck touring the country this summer, and we'll look for you on the big screen soon. We'll see everybody right back here next week on The Mental Game.
See y'all.
And that was such a fun conversation. As you heard, tons of laughs, obviously, since he's such a great comedian. But Brent is really open about his mental health, his struggles, how he's helped himself, and really just wanted to help anyone out there listening. So again, big thanks to Brent Pella for coming on The Mental Game. Next week, another surprise guest, and we are sticking out here in Hollywood. You'll see that surprise guest right back here next week on The Mental Game.